Well, let's get more now on one of our top stories, the death at 85 of South Africa's last apartheid president, FW de Klerk, the man who oversaw the demise of the country's white minority rule. His foundation says he'd been suffering from cancer for some time. Michael, he was a seminal figure in South Africa's transition to democracy, of course, but what kind of man was he?
When you take a look at who de Klerk was to the South African and even to the whole world, he will be remembered for being the champion among the people who actually helped stop the apartheid system in South Africa. And well, of course, if you remember, the apartheid system was one of the systems that tried to segregate the blacks and the whites in South Africa. And also something that we can remember from this, one of this icon in South Africa is he also helped end the single-party system in South Africa. Before we had the National Party, which was predominantly owned by the minority whites in South Africa before the independence in 1994. And when de Klerk took charge of the party, and of course later on he became the president of South Africa in 1989, he helped champion the multipartism system, whereby the likes of African National Congress Party, the ANC, that is the ruling party now, came into system. And one last thing that we also will remember about de Klerk was that he helped release Nelson Mandela from prison. That was in 1990. And this is something that actually South Africans and the whole world will like to remember from these South African icons.
Indeed, I remember myself or recall those pictures of, that remarkable moment also when he announced that Nelson Mandela would be set free after spending so many years in prison on Robben Island. What do you think his overriding legacy is going to be? How's Africa looking at him?
Well, let's take a look at him maybe into details. Back in 1993, de Klerk and alongside Nelson Mandela actually won the Nobel Peace Prize. And it was actually something that really surprised the world, and people actually welcomed this in South Africa. And maybe to look at his legacy here, he helped in the reconciliation between the blacks and the whites in South Africa and brought them to unity. And even back in 1994, later on, they even had this coalition government with the ANC, the National Party that was mainly dominated by the white, and the ANC that was mainly dominated by some of the black, led by Nelson Mandela, and they formed a unity government, and this led to the unity in South Africa between the two races. And apart from that, you realize that de Klerk also helped in championing democracy in South Africa. It's something that he actually tried to fight and even help South Africa have a very fast democratic election in 1994 when ANC actually won the election. And maybe the last thing that we, like you said before, he will be remembered as one of the last white president in South Africa, which actually symbolized the end of apartheid rule, which was one of these dark days in South Africa. And maybe something that some South Africans actually talking on Twitter and looking at some of the reaction on Twitter and Facebook, some South Africa actually condole with the family and actually talk positive about him. But some of the reaction about South Africa, they remember him as maybe someone who was trying to protect the dark days of South Africa, the people who are championing this apartheid system. So some look at him as someone who was trying to protect those who are behind the apartheid system. And these are some of the few controversies maybe he had later on.